I've always had a fascination with co-op games, and over the years we've seen some awesome ones, especially on Xbox. However, 33 Immortals is really looking to take that usual co-op aspect that we all know and love and completely turn it on its head. You probably know Thunder Lotus Games from Spiritfarer. It's that emotional journey about guiding souls to the afterlife. But what if I told you the same team that made that cozy tearjerker is now taking us straight into the depths of hell to fight our way out? This new multiplayer roguelike dungeon crawler is chaotic, action-packed, and really leans hard into cooperative gameplay. But does it live up to the hype and make us want to dive deeper into hell, or does it want us to transcend to heaven and forget it altogether? Well, my name is Fletcher, this is Xbox Nation, and let's dive right in and find out. So, what exactly is 33 Immortals? Well, imagine a fusion of Diablo, Hades, and an MMO raid, but actually stripped down to its most intense and chaotic essence. This is a large-scale roguelike where up to 33 players take on the forces of hell, purgatory, and even heaven in a desperate bid to rebel against divine judgment. You and 32 other lost souls will battle waves of grotesque demons, slash your way through mini-bosses, and stack up all upgrades, all leading to an insane boss fight at the end of each dungeon. Let me tell you though, these boss fights at the end of each round are the massive highlight, and I will delve into them a little bit later in this video. This game though is all about teamwork, because if you go in alone, well, let's just say you won't last long. Enemies here are very tough, unforgiving, and ultimately working as a team is a priority, as the more of you there are, the easier the boss fights and enemies actually become. Now, like most roguelikes, 33 Immortals has a gameplay loop that keeps you coming back for just one more run. You essentially start each session in what's called Darkwoods, the game's central hub where you can choose different weapons, grab your upgrades, work towards daily objectives, and prepare for battle. The daily quest board offers 3 rotating objectives that reward Stardust. This is essential for leveling up your perks. Dante, the keeper of perks, then provides a selection of 20 different upgrades, improving everything from gold drops to attack power, and each of these can also be upgraded 5 times for stronger bonuses. Weapons really do matter here though in 33 Immortals, and as you level up further and further, you will definitely want to upgrade them to ensure you do better damage in the later stages of this game. Do you want to swing a heavy sword, fire arrows from a distance, dual wield daggers like a maniac, or just channel magic through a staff? Each one of these classes plays differently and offers a very unique skill set. Personally, I actually fell in love with the tank class, which is the one with the sword. This may seem like a fairly basic class compared to the rest, but trust me, it has a very awesome ability. Not only does your ultimate give you the chance to shield others within the same vicinity, but you can also hold down the Y button to block all incoming attacks, so you essentially become invincible for a very short window. It's a very good class for beginners, but if you want a challenge, then a rogue is one for you. So once you're set, it's straight into hell as you go through the gate at the top of Darkwoods. At present, there are only 2 world maps to choose from, but to get into the later stages, you need keys by getting through certain stages of the final boss. So when diving into these worlds, you will explore a massive dungeon filled with tons of enemies, loot, and torture chambers. Torture chambers are essentially mini areas where you'll take on waves of enemies to unlock buffs and keys needed for progression. In total, the entire team of 33 of you actually need to complete 12 of these to unlock ascension to the final boss. Only 6 of you can enter a gate at one time, but the game really does a good job of staggering these out across the map so you aren't just stuck aimlessly wandering everywhere. Once these are all complete though, you go to what is known as Ascension, and you have to go to one of 3 points within the map for essentially a final showdown before going up to the Godly Realm for a final boss fight. I cannot understate it enough though, but teamwork at Ascension stage is absolutely crucial as there are tons of enemies on screen, and if there are say less than 10 of you at one time, you will be royally screwed to put it lightly. Once you have conquered this last part though, you can then ascend and you will be teleported to the final boss stage. Honestly, this entire process is where 33 Immortal really starts to feel like a mix of an MMO raid and a roguelike. The moment you enter a dungeon, you see dozens of other players fighting their way through enemies, each one with their own unique build and also playstyle. It's an experience unlike any other I've experienced before, and you can choose when and how you want to go about it all, but there is a lovely little timer, so it does make you proceed as quickly as possible to complete each objective. What makes 33 Immortals unique isn't just its combat though, it really is the overall cooperative experience. The game is built around teamwork from start to finish, whether that's healing allies at shrines, reviving fallen allies before they disappear, or combining attacks to deal critical damage. 33 Immortals really pushes you to work together in the best way possible. To be honest though, one of my favourite mechanics is the co-op ability system. Each class has a powerful rune-based ability that only activates if multiple players stand on their own at the same time. This is essentially an ultimate ability in other games, and can only be cast once enough time has passed, or when you've completed more objectives or killed more enemies to speed up the process. This can mean raining down arrows on enemies, slowing enemies, or just shielding your allies. But here's the catch, you have to coordinate mid-fight, which can be very risky but also so rewarding when it actually works. Honestly, there's been so many times where other players, or possibly even myself, have put the ability out of bounds or in an area of damage where it's impossible to set off the ability. I promise you, I'm not actually that bad at the game, it's just a very risk and reward scenario, which I'm pretty bad at. Now, not everyone is a team player though, and this gets to me so much as someone who's an ultra competitive person and also very objective based. Some players will wander off, thinking they can handle things on their own, and to be honest, that's when things get pretty interesting. You'll see players who think they're some kind of solo legend, running into battle alone, only to be instantly wrecked by a boss. It is equal parts hilarious, but incredibly painful to watch. When they do die, or maybe you perish, you will turn into a floating, glowing star, and I tell you what, the amount of players who don't know that they can be revived at the moment is astonishing. I guess this is down to the lack of hand-holding the game actually gives you from the very start, as there really isn't much in the way of a tutorial at the moment. Once you do get revived though, you do come back with a limited amount of HP, which doesn't actually regen fully, and once you die again, that's it, it's game over. When everything clicks though, the game delivers a thrilling high-stakes experience that feels genuinely unique. However, the same mechanics that make it so exciting can also lead to frustration. Combat has a weightiness that really rewards patience, but might feel sluggish to some, especially if you're using Staff of the Sloth. And also the tutorial could also do a better job of making a strong first impression with a more detailed guide of the game's core mechanics. I think this lack of any tutorial really does hurt the game at this state, because the lack of cooperation at times due to the lack of knowledge of how the game plays can get pretty frustrating. The game's dependence on teamwork is also a very double-edged sword in this instance. Success feels incredibly earned, but failure can often be out of your control. There is also no pinging system or way of communicating other than a scrolling wheel at the moment, and with it being a co-op experience, this is a massively missed opportunity that can hurt the overall experience even more. Now, I know many of you will be incredibly interested in this certain section, and I will do my best to try and give you insight without spoiling too much, as I want to show you the surprises that will get thrown your way. I think we should only talk about Lucifer, the final boss of Hell, which is actually the first boss, as I don't want to spoil later parts of this experience. This three-headed nightmare of a demon is one of the tougher fights in the game, and if you're not ready for it, he will wipe out your entire squad in minutes. The boss fight in 33 Immortals are where the game really shines. You have to work together, time your dodges, and take advantage of perks and buffs just to survive. If you just try to button mash your way through this, you're absolutely done. There are so many aspects to these boss fights which not only require hitting a weak point, but also killing mini bosses and so much more, so it really does become a real juggling act. You can think of it like a Destiny end raid boss, or maybe even Hollow Knight, where a boss will have multiple different attack phases to try and get you to think on your feet quickly. There are ultimately though 10 stages to each of these bosses, and each of them get progressively harder and harder, and will require different teamwork strategies to ensure the overall success. Lucifer does give you bits where you have to attack these sort of teardrops before he charges his ultimate ability, or you will get a full team wipe. So there is definitely a time aspect as well, which makes this even more of a challenge. I do have to say though, with my entire 15 hours in this game so far, I've defeated Lucifer a handful of times. When I say this is a challenging boss, I mean it in every single aspect, and with a lot of new players who don't know what they're doing at the moment, failure is almost certain. I do suspect it will get easier over time when the cemented player base knows the ins and outs of each area, so I reckon that'll be the case in sort of a month's time. Now, here's the big question though, will 33 Immortals survive long term? Honestly, multiplayer games these days live and die by this player base, and this one needs 33 players just to function properly, and that may be a very big ask, especially for an indie experience which hasn't actually fully released yet and is still in a game preview state. The good news is that it did launch on the Xbox Game Pass day one, which has definitely been bringing in a healthy number of players, but for how long, I really couldn't tell you. The bad news as well is that it has skipped Steam for its early access, and that could really hurt its player base, especially on PC, as we all know how dire the Epic Game Store is and how PC players really don't like anything outside of Steam. I do feel that without a large and consistent player base, matchmaking could suffer in the future, and I keep on thinking how they can improve this, but honestly, I'm kind of stuck at this stage. Yes, the later game modes only require 22 and then 11 players in the lobby, but if you're a newcomer, say 2 years down the line, will you even be able to find a game? But hey, if it catches on, I could be completely wrong, and 33 Immortals could be the next big thing in core roguelikes. But again, we just have to wait and see, and enjoy it with what it is at this current moment in time. I did also want to cover a little bit in terms of performance when it comes to both the Xbox Series X and S consoles, and honestly, there isn't really much to say in this area. The game runs at a smooth 60 FPS on both consoles, and they both run incredibly well. In no way is this a graphically intensive game, and most of my game time was actually spent on the Xbox Series S whilst I was travelling, and I never had any hitches or issues with the graphical quality. I do suspect we may get a 120 FPS mode down the line, but for now it's a straight one and done experience across the board, and I've never suffered any issues on my time with this co-op experience. 33 Immortals does seem to be a very well polished experience, especially for a game in early access, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. So, should you play 33 Immortals? Well, if you love chaotic co-op games and roguelikes, without a doubt it's a solid yes from me. The combat is very tight, the co-op mechanics are genuinely engaging, and the overall experience is very addictive. But if you're looking for a full polished game, you might want to wait for some more content updates, which are due to come sometime later this year. I'm actually going to be giving 33 Immortals an 80 out of 100 at its current early access state, and no doubt I suspect this score may improve over the coming years once the game launches into 1.0 and has some more gameplay elements and content added. I absolutely adore the work that Thunder Lotus have done so far, even with the issues aside, and I will happily update this review once the game has fully launched. I do recommend checking it out if you have an Xbox Game Pass subscription, but if you're on PC at the moment, you might want to wait and see how the player base holds up before getting it on an Epic. What do you think? Will 33 Immortals be the next big roguelike, or will it struggle to keep players engaged? Do let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more reviews like this every single day. Whilst here, why don't you check out my most recent video on screen now, as I covered the 15 brand new Xbox and Game Pass games coming in April 2025.